Alex's favorite part of the meeting was the whole like good news and gratitude part.
Yeah.
No, I hate. He's being super sarcastic.
No, I'm being sarcastic.
Oh.
She hated it.
This is like,
She
I
hated
hate this stuff. I don't like fluff and all that stuff. I just always hated when someone, like consultants were like, start with your gratitude. And I'm like, I don't know. I'm healthy. I'm fine. Like, I don't care. Why do I need to share that? Can we just get to the meeting?
All right, so last time we had Chris on, we spent like 40 minutes going through all the systems that he used to pretty much grow his practice to like, what was it, like over 4.5 million in like 4 or 5 years, something crazy.
Yeah, it was
and
a good
at the end of
episode.
that, at the end of the episode, like he briefly mentioned like one sentence about meetings, and then we were like, oh yeah, this is what we need to do next. And we actually got feedback from some people on the last episode, and they were like, oh, we should talk about meetings, because I feel like that's one thing. I don't want to say we because it's probably just more me. I think I'm lumping you in on this. But I feel like one thing I always struggled with was like, I never felt like I had meetings down.
No.
Like I feel like we just had them to have them, but I never felt like I noticed like the needle moving. And like if we had one for a month and we let it off, like the production stayed the same. So I never felt like it helped a lot. So Chris, we want to bring you on. Let's go through like...
Because meetings can be a little controversial, I think.
Yeah.
Some people are very yeah.
It's not a sexy topic.
It's not.
It's
and
not-
then people have
it's not
their
exciting.
opinions on it, though. And they're like, no, you have to do them like this. And other people are like, no, we hate meetings. We are anti-meetings. And I think there's a lot of gray area. And there's ways to do it wrong. And there's, ways to do it right. And I don't know if we ever did it right, when we were doing it.
I just never felt like I did it right. Because, like if you're running a system and you're like, this system works, it works. Like you kind of have that feeling of like, this is working. I just never felt like we got that where I was like, this is working and like, this is worth it to keep on doing. So sorry, that's super broad. So
yeah, I don't know if there's a right or wrong. It's about being effective, right? So if you're just meeting to meet because some consultant or some podcast said I should have meetings, but it's not producing an outcome, then you are wasting your time. But for a lot of us that have been able to grow practices, the value of meetings is it's helped me grow faster, and it helped our practice like reduce some of the chaos when you have patients, flooding into the practice. Like, football teams, they have a whole week to prepare for their Sunday game, and there's meetings and there's, running through plays and things like that. And so like our game day is every day when patients show up, and being just prepared and being like what went well last week, or what went well today, or what didn't go well, and how can we prevent that in the future or reduce that from happening in the future.
Right. So let's break it down. So what was your goal of the meeting? Like what was like, okay, this is what we're doing. This is why we're doing it.
Yeah. When we first opened as a startup, I talked to some people that had a lot of success, and they're like, hey, you're going to want to get busy fast, but you're not going to be as busy as you want to be. So there'll be time between patients to like set up systems or talk through processes, but you might want to have like a formal whole team meeting once a week. And so I was like, okay, I'm just going to trust that this person had a ton of success, and that would be a good idea. So I adopted that philosophy. So we would meet once a week. The team size is like 4 people, and we always opened with like good news, wins, and then at that time it's kind of like, okay, what systems do we need to add, or what worked in the patient experience last week, or what equipment do we need to add, things like that. And then from there, once we were too busy to do that a meeting regularly, which was a little longer, setting kind of the foundation. I think we did that for 6 months. Then we got more structured, and things evolved as we grew into the types of meetings and the frequency of meetings that we were having.
Yeah. So
I could get into that because it depends on the size of the team, right?
Yeah. Because not every meeting needs a that same type of cadence, right? It's like your monthly whole team meeting or whatever shouldn't be every week, because you can't get into a good rhythm and get your actual work done type of thing. Or, your strategy meetings shouldn't be, weekly, because you don't see results that quick. So yeah, do you want to break us down the types of meetings that you had and the frequency that you had them?
Yeah. So let's pick a practice. Let's say there's 12 team members. Because less than that, like around 6 to 8 team members, you could kind of meet with the whole team. You don't really maybe have a ton of leads. You might have like an OM and like a back office person that's kind of ascended to a lead role. It's much different in that 6 to 8 team member range, where the practice is kind of also like a co-office manager. We're stuck in the management. But when you get to this 12 to like 20 team member status, you really need to develop other leaders in the practice. So when we got to that point, it was like, okay, once a month, we're going to meet with the whole team. And I'll go over first which meetings we were having, and then I could go back to the structure of certain types of meetings. So once a month, was the whole office meeting. Once a week, I was meeting with the 3 or 4 people that we were grooming to be leads of their departments. And then everyone was having a one-on-one once a month. And then every other week, the departments were meeting, individually, like, so assistants, hygienists, front office, and this included, revenue cycle management. And so you have to block out clinical time to have these meetings, right? But so it's like some docs are like, oh, I'm losing production. But really, it makes those productive hours that much more productive by going in prepared and organized and with less chaos, and where everybody is on the same page regarding like what the goal is and what we're trying to accomplish, right? So I'll just start there and let you guys ask questions.
Yeah, and then at that level, you're in every meeting.
Well, like the owner?
Yeah.
No. So let's stick with. Do we want to stick with like 12 member situation?
Yeah, let's do that, because that's a little bit easier. Because when you get, like you said, when there's like 4 to 6 people, it's like so hard to have like meetings, because it's like everyone overlaps with stuff, and it's really hard to kind of like.
Yeah, and I feel like probably the average listener here too may not have like 100 team members, right? So like I think that 12ish is probably hits the most amount of people. Right. So let's go with that.
Yeah. And you'll have to just evolve and tweak depending, on your scale as you scale and grow, just like everything. Like, so we'll stick with that example. No, I am not in every meeting. I would actually have a meeting on Monday mornings with my office manager, and it turned out to be revenue cycle manager, just because, they were available. They're not in the clinic. So I didn't have to pull anybody away from patient care, and they could give us like the numbers, like last week, collections was up or down, or we have these patient account issues. So, but with the OM, it was kind of like you have 3 different kinds of overarching problems. You're either going to have people problem, which can include HR. Do we need to hire people? Is there a cultural issue or patient issue? It would also fall under people problems. You will have systems and processes issues. So like the flow of the practice, this isn't working, or cancellations are way up. Do we need to audit our cancellation confirmation protocol? Or you'll have like growth and skills acquisition things, which isn't really a problem. It's just like, oh, we need to help these people develop this this skill and grow in this area, or maybe we need to add a software or piece of equipment. So it's more of a, I guess technical or growth oriented thing that we're trying to solve for.
Because that makes sense. So kind of going off of this, I think one mistake, I know Alex, you have a bunch that
I have a
you
bunch
went through,
of mistakes,
but one of many that I feel like I always made was, you talk, Chris, about, you guys would go over like some KPI stuff, right? If it was about like the office. I always made the mistake of going over that though with like everyone, and what would end up happening is I'd have like a random DA who would hear like, oh, we hit our production goal, or we did this, and if it wasn't just directly tied to a bonus, which is I think all they cared about on it, they didn't really give a shit. So it was like there was no point in them, and not that they really, I don't even know if they really should care, because I think sometimes as dentists we think like every single team member needs to care the same we do about every single thing, but like they actually don't. Some of them just need to focus on like their skill set. And so I feel like I did so many meetings where half the team was just zoned out because it didn't apply to them and it was an issue. So, I mean, it seems like that's something.
Well, I think we talked about that a little last time. Did we talk about morning huddles a little bit, and how focusing more on like the impact we have on a patient experience or team experience, rather than, hey guys, we got to pick up another 3,000 in production today to hit our goal. Like, yeah, that's in the doctor's minds and like the management team's minds, but do I really need my sterile tech to be focusing on picking up $3,000 of treatment that day?
Yeah.
Is that,
yeah.
And so we start to train them, focus on numbers, and then the only numbers they care about are, and I don't blame them, is like what's going in my pocket at the end of the day, right?
Yeah.
Oh, it totally backfires. Yeah.
Yeah.
So like in the smaller teams, so getting back to like the types of meetings we're having, like a morning huddle you could solve a lot of things in a quick morning huddle with the right framework if you have like 6 to 8 team members. Now at 12 team members, which we're talking about, we're going to definitely still have a morning huddle. I'm going to have a management meeting. Like I mentioned, we're going to have a weekly meeting with our leads. Now, how many leads should you have? Or captain or point people? That depends on your philosophy, and that's a whole nother conversation. But you might have a hygiene lead, assistant lead. If you have a bunch of associates, maybe one of the associates is in there, and then you'll have like a OM, which maybe also serves as like a front office lead, and then maybe revenue cycle manager, because there's always stuff that comes up with insurance and processes there that we want to, take care of and be aware of, because how many of our patient issues come from insurance issues? You know what I mean? So we want to be able to solve those and have the data from that person readily available. So and then I mentioned one-on-ones, everybody on the team wants to be seen, valued, heard. And none of these meetings are bitch fests. It's progress. It's about growth. And so there's a very detailed, it's not super complex, but it's structured one-on-one sheet that the team member comes with, filled out. And the one-on-one is for them. Yes, it's for us because it helps us understand what they need, what situations might be going on in the corners of the practice, and what skills they think they want to acquire, or what skills we want them to acquire. But that's kind of the focus on the one-on-ones, and they don't have to be long, 15, 20 minutes. We're not sitting there for an hour, getting into all their personal life and all that stuff. Yes, we care about them, and we're, if there's something that comes up, like, it's great because we're building a relationship, but the one-on-ones really help us build the culture and protect the culture as well.
So I think too, when you were going through all this, and I wonder if this sits in other dentists' heads too that are lazy like I am, right? Is I go through, these meetings are good, right? But the first thing that goes in my head is like, God damn it, I have to do all these meetings, right? And I think the mindset shift, that's a hard one to say 5 times, but is you shouldn't be the one, like Chris was saying, that has to do all these. So if I could train my OM to do those one-on-ones that was doing all that, and my job as like the CEO of the practice or whatever you want to call it was to do kind of what Chris said, and you're going in Monday mornings, you're talking with your OM and getting all that information so then you can help make high-level decisions, and then you let your team make the rest of those decisions. I think that's when maybe a lot of that overwhelmingness or whatever can kind of come off, because I feel like maybe a lot of dentists feel like if you have 5-6 team members, you're probably going to be doing a lot of it because you're just not big enough to have, you probably don't need an OM when you have 5 total team members, right? But when you get bigger, right, you need that. And I think it's just about training that person to be able to do all those things kind of for you.
So one thing that you mentioned really quickly in just like a few minutes ago was one of your meetings, or one of the things that you do, you're sitting down with your staff members and teaching them. You said you're going over what the KPIs were. Is that what you meant? Is that you're actually spending some time mentoring them on like becoming the lead?
Oh, so I think what I was getting at, so two separate things. In the one-on-ones, skills acquisition, what I meant was like, hey, we would love for you, dental assistant, to learn. Oh, sorry, I misunderstood the question.
No, not in the one-on-ones. The one-on-ones are like the assessment, but was there
Okay.
another meeting that was set during the week or whatever with someone? You're like, hey, I gotta teach you what these KPIs are. Like, I have to actually like show you what the business is, like how this actually works.
Yeah, I guess how are you asking, like, how did you do that?
Yeah.
Or
like
when
did
you do that?
did you mention that, or maybe I misheard it?
No, I think that would be like a one-off thing. And I don't think, I think maybe
That wasn't you.
meant
Okay.
something
No,
else.
that was
I
just
was
Alex.
just- I
Alex
was
trying to
hallucinating.
manifest that.
I was
Yeah.
hallucinating,
Yeah.
and
that was,
Yeah,
that was
no,
Alex
that's-
GPT hallucinating.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and also in addition to your meetings, you
Yeah.
get to have
Yeah.
these
Well, I'll
things.
tell you a
And-
story.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you. So, like, we experienced some quick growth. I'm getting overwhelmed. I'm caught up in the management. My office manager is learning to be an office manager. He's a first-time office manager. And I'm starting to appoint, some people are ascending into leadership roles as assistants, as hygienists, things like that. And so we kind of identified the people that we wanted to run their departments, because that takes a lot of the burden off my plate. And they could, because I can't be in contact with every person in the office when there's 12 people. I just want to deal with the leads, right? But I was still learning how to lead. They didn't know what I meant by leadership. And I came up with like, okay, we want to set up this office so Dr. Green is not needed. That was like the philosophy I went with.
Yep.
And I said, well, how am I going to train people our leadership philosophy? And what I came up with was, well, what if I just could commit 12 weeks? So if we're meeting once a week with the leads towards training, like put together a 12-week program. So I just said, this is the 12-week leader. Okay, so 90 days, whatever that is. And each week, like first week was core values. Like, let's do our core values and maybe our mission and vision. Okay, are we good with this? And then your guys' job is to go to the people that are under your care. So if there's 4 assistants and one of them's a lead, those other 3 assistants, you need to make sure they're on the same page with us, right? And so that assistant would hold the one-on-ones, but they didn't know how to run a one-on-one, right? So one of those, the next leadership training was, this is how a one-on-one looks. This is the framework for it, so on and so forth. The next one would be like a philosophy like servant leadership or extreme ownership, things we've all heard about, and so on and so forth. And we'd start checking these boxes. And just by committing that 90 days, I opened the flywheel to better leaders in the practice in a better direction for them to be able to shepherd the other team members. So it wasn't all coming back to Dr. Green all the time.
See, you didn't say it, but I knew you were smart enough that you came up with some kind of system. I like, we knew that. Yeah. Obviously, you trained them, because that was always my missing piece. I never had time. And it was kind of one of those things where it was like, I don't have the time. Just go find the KPI. Look here, press this button, download this report, give me the number right here. You have no idea what to do with it. Like, you don't even know what it means or whatever, but just report back to me that this is like something that you've done. And like, hopefully you'll figure it out, because I've like yelled at you so many times of like, why is this low? Type of thing. Yeah. But that is so important to get to take the time to actually train those leads so that they know what to do, and so that, it takes you out of it. And then now you can have a focused meeting with those team leads and they can report back to you.
Well, yeah. And I think part of it too is I never did a good job of actually like defining what things meant. Like, I think sometimes we just, maybe as dentists, just assume, we hear like KPI or new patient counts or what was your case acceptance. And we're just like, oh yeah, well, our case acceptance should be 70%, right? Like, that's what you hear. And then you just tell your team member that, and you're talking to someone who probably, maybe that's the first time they've heard that term. They have no idea what it means, and you just expect them to know what it is. So I do think what you did, Chris, which was smart, is just defining all of that on the front end. So like everyone knew what, so when you came to them later and said, this is what we're talking about, they already knew what it was.
Yeah. And so, from there, then let's say after the 12 weeks, we had these sheets. So each lead comes with the sheet. Everybody comes prepared to the meeting. So now it's efficient. We start with we go around good news. You want to start it off on a positive note. And then we start with the hygienist. Okay. And they say, last week I had mentioned we had been working on better defining how we diagnose perio in this office. I've come up with the system. I've reviewed it with the hygienist. Everybody's on board and good to go there. But something new that's come up this week that we're working on is implementation of Perio Protect. And so it's going to take me a few weeks. I have to go do a training with, Perio Protect as an example. And then from there, the hygienists are going to get trained on it and we're going to roll it out. And I'll report back next week on what progress I've made there. Great. OM, where are you? Okay. And then the OM's sheet might be like, okay, these are some patient situations going on. These are some case complexities, associates dealing with XYZ. These are some, and then on their sheet might go over KPIs, or these are some things that are going on with some personnel in the practice, yada, 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 and kind of the same flow, but everybody has that. So now we're very efficient and we're not getting off on tangents, right? We're trying to stay focused. We're trying to solve things. And there'll be certain things that were tasks that could be completed in a week. And there'll be certain things that are projects, project-based, where it's like, I completed this one step towards this project, but it's going to take me about 2 more months to get to the finish line here. And this is the next action I'm taking towards this project over the next week. So now we, as the owners, because a lot of dentists like to have control, aren't wondering, are they getting this done? They're reporting to us progress is being made, or this problem that I brought up last week has been solved. They close that loop. Open loops are like the bane to any dental practice owners, like mental health.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Totally.
As a logistics question, so it's not as much with like front office or office managers and stuff, because they can like set aside time. They're not patient facing for the most part. But with like hygiene leads or dental assistant leads, they obviously have extra work that needs to be done. They have to hold their own meetings and they actually have to like you said, meet with like the Perio Protect rep and stuff like that. I never did a good job of like figuring out how they're supposed to do that with also their own schedules of like, well, you're my assistant. You got to be beside me the whole day. Well, I don't know when you're going to get the rest of your stuff done.
Yeah. Or you go into the thing where you'd be like, you'd hear like, well, you're most productive when you're in the room. Right. And so, like I might say like, I think I would do this all the time. And we'd be like, okay, we're going to put a meeting on at like 2:00. And then some limited would come in and they'd need like, I don't know, they broke a front tooth or something like that. And then in your head, you're like, yeah, I could do this meeting or I could prep the crown. And then you're like, all right, let's prep the crown.
Yeah.
So so how did you handle that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it depends on where you are in your phase of growth. If you're a startup and a crown comes in, yeah, we're doing that crown right now. But you put off that meeting 2 times and it's like, wow, I haven't met with my office manager in 6 weeks. All these problems and issues start to compound, and what could have been a 30-minute meeting is now an hour-and-a-half long meeting because of all the things we have to solve. So I'll go back to, not to hop around, but I'll go back to the Monday meeting with the office manager. It's real quick. I don't really bring anything. I might have some open loops that I want her to close for me, and I might have I keep like a notebook. I might have a little thing. Oh yeah, ask her about this. But besides that, she's just reporting to me like, hey, we have this patient situation. I'm going to handle it, or it's solved. Great. I feel good about it because I don't have to get involved, right? Or, hey, this patient really would want to, I think, I've done as much as I can towards this situation. I think you really need to get involved here. Okay, I'm annoyed, but at least I know the expectation. And then like, hey, these were the KPIs for last week. You want to keep KPIs simple. That's a whole different conversation. And it's kind of the same thing. Like this week, I'm working towards solving this issue. Or, hey, we onboarded a new assistant and things are going real well there. I'll report back next week to let you know how they're doing over, how they did over their second week with the office or whatever it may be. So, yeah, I think with everybody coming prepared and organized and having, making sure we're not letting it go too long, the problems don't build up, and we solve things quicker, and we could progress quicker because of it.
Nice.
Yeah, I mean, so Alex, I know Chris had mentioned how he kind of like starts his meetings, and I know Alex's favorite part of me.
I'm laughing already.
Yeah, Alex's favorite part of a meeting was the whole like good news and gratitude part.
Yeah.
No, I hate. He's being super sarcastic.
No, I'm being sarcastic.
Oh.
She hated it.
This is like, I
hated
hate the stuff. I'm not. I don't like fluff and all that stuff. I just always hated when someone like consultants were like, start with your gratitude, and I'm like, I don't know. I'm healthy. I'm fine. Like I don't care. Why do I need to share that? Can we just get to the meeting? So like I think there is some fluff that's nice. Like good news, yeah, I guess. Like I just hate that stuff, and I think it's just sometimes it can be forced. I mean, I'd rather know from like my team member, what did someone else do in the practice that was really good? Like name what someone else did. Like change it up a bit.
Yeah.
Just don't ask me to be
Well, I
grateful
remember
for something.
our office
I don't
manager
know.
even said that because it became a point where like, you know, one consultant we use are like, oh, you have to do your gratitude thing, right? And it's like, okay. And then after like 3 weeks, everyone would just say the same stuff. And then they started to get stressed because they didn't know what to think. And then it's like when you're sitting around like I don't know, when you start college and you're in like a big circle, right? And they're like, all right, everyone say something fun about you. Like everyone fucking hates that because like there's pressure. You don't know what to say. Like, do I tell them like, I just go to like, I can juggle, right? Like that's the only one I use. So I have like the same thing I say every time. But like, you know, in those meetings, when you have to do those every week, it just became a point where like, I could tell my team didn't want to do it because they felt like it just became awkward. If you like our podcast, check out Alex's newsletter, Just 2 Minutes. It's full of great advice, which makes sense considering it's her thoughts and not me sidetracking her every 2 seconds. You can subscribe at coupleofdentists.com. The link is in the show notes. Now, back to the pod.
Well, maybe that's a problem. That, you know, I think, you know, gratitude is hard because our negativity bias is so strong. But to your point, you got to change it up. Like it might be, hey, this is a personal win or a professional win, or this is something fun I did this past weekend. It's really a culture building thing. The good news. It's about getting to know the team members and showing that we actually care about them as people rather than it's all transactional, which is really what I think we all want and what makes it more enjoyable to show up to the practice.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Oh, Alex is transactional.
Let's just get to the point. No, but that's okay. But that's me. I mean, that's. I still care about them. It's just,
yeah, you're just very like Alex is very. I'm trying to. This is still going to be worded nicely.
Oh gosh.
But you're much more like you are so heavy results driven. So like happiness for you is when someone does a result and like achieves something or succeeds something like. That like you get into like work mode, I think, and you're like, our goal here is to like help patients do good dentistry, you know, make good money, all that kind of stuff. And I think you almost maybe see any of exterior stuff like, oh, what did you do last weekend? Like that time could have been used for figuring out something else. And so I feel like you almost think it's like a waste in your head,
yeah,
because you're so like hyper focused on that one thing.
Yeah.
And so yeah,
I mean.
I don't know. Is that my
maybe a flaw? I don't know.
No, maybe that was my. Now you get a therapy session this time.
Oh, thanks. Yeah.
I think that's. I think it's common, but I think you could tweak it many different ways. Like you could even say, "Hey, I would love to hear about something you learned last week, or something that you used to struggle with that now is getting easier." Just really anything to set.
Oh yeah, we did trivia questions.
Yeah,
we switched it because I was like,
there you go.
I can't do this.
But what it is too is that's where you empower someone else on your team who fits that personality type. Like you don't have to have every single like personality type. Like for me, I probably would have been better with the fluffy stuff than you were, but you're so much better than I am at result stuff. So I think it goes back to like just having like the right person in the right seat for the meeting. So like if you're not good at that naturally, or you don't like doing it, right? I mean, yeah, you could probably figure it out. It probably long term wouldn't work that well. So then just have your OM as someone who likes to initiate that, right? And so you're still doing it. It's just a different person doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so.
One thing that people complain about a lot, you know, in coaching a lot of dentists is like, I don't know what to even talk about at the meeting. Well, we already reviewed like a few things that, you know, put it on a team, right? But as we grew and we would have once a month whole office meeting, because you need everybody together, like only much you can accomplish on Slack or whatever communication platform you guys might have with the team. And what we would do is we would just start a Google Doc like after that monthly meeting, and then I would have all the leads had access to it. They could just add things to it that we wanted to cover. By the time the next month rolled around, we had the agenda ready to go, right? Wow. So I think one of the things is not being, you hear people like us talking about frameworks. These are frameworks, it's not a prescription. So talking about this stuff on a podcast and somebody's trying to make it actionable, make it fit your world, but with the goal in mind of we want to be effective. We don't just want to be going on tangents and having meetings just to have meetings. We want to have some goals in mind. And I think that's how you progress and make it worthwhile when you are taking time away from spinning the handpiece to have these.
So like with some of the people that you like, some of the dentists that you work with and like consult with and stuff like that, does it ever help them too? Because it seemed like you said, one common question you'll get is, like, I don't even know how to hold a meeting, right? And I like your process of saying like it's a framework and you have to fit it how you want, like you had just said. Do you ever find that it works, or have you ever had like, if a dentist doesn't know that, like, do you ever show them like a video of like what a meeting looks like, or have them go to an office where someone's done it? Because I feel like sometimes that helps when you can actually see and visualize it, and then you can kind of tweak it to your own. But it is hard sometimes when you're just like, someone just writes down a prescription and says, this is how you do a meeting, and then you try to do it. It's I don't know. For me, it's really hard if I can't visualize it and see how someone else has done it, then it helps a lot.
The one thing you could listen to would be, I think it's like Level 10 Meetings by the guy that wrote Traction. I think it's Gino Workman, is it? If you just like search YouTube, it pops up, and it would be like a good starting point. It's like 10 or 12 minutes just to get an idea of just how he likes to run. I think like it's like a lead meeting type framework. But that would be an option. I mean, listen, the results from meetings don't directly show up in your KPIs, right? But we know if you can commit to it for a while in some sort of cadence, and then you get away from doing it, you can almost feel like the difference. And maybe it shows up in the KPIs, maybe it doesn't. But the office will feel a bit more chaotic. More cultural problems will pop up. More patient issues won't be solved properly. More systems will break. And it's really kind of about maintenance of all that, right?
Yeah, and I mean, nothing feels better than like when you go through a day at work and you're like, that was smooth, right? Like that's just a good feeling.
Right.
You're not stressed. Like the day goes by quickly. You feel like it's just a well-oiled machine. Like, I know you're saying like that is sometimes hard to quantify, but that does have a lot of like, it has a very broad impact on a lot of things, right? Like you're right. It's hard to correlate it. Like I did this thing in this meeting and now my case acceptance went up 5%, right? Like you're never going to like put those two together. But if you get your team running well, like it just all kind of rises.
I think it's all just like what Chris said too. It's like all on alignment. It's like that. If you're aligned during the meeting, you're going to be aligned during the rest of the days when you're not in your meeting.
Yeah. Well, it's like, let's deconstruct that day. That could be a meeting with your leads. Hey, you know what? Monday was awesome last week. At our meeting that we have this Wednesday, I'd love to deconstruct what went well and how can we have more days like that. Now, we're dealing with people, we're dealing with variables of patient needs and different procedures and, whatever. But if we at least go in with a plan, there's a more likely chance we could reproduce that great day.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, I want to go through some mistakes I've made over the last years. Yeah, absolutely. Right, cool. And be like, that was, no one else did that. That was just you being an idiot or something. Who knows? Okay, so one of the big mistakes I made early on was inviting everyone, and we kind of touched on this, inviting everyone to every meeting every single time, right? It's like, oh, here's the meeting to, this month. Everyone's invited. Come listen to me, speak.
Well, that's so odd because like you don't like people.
I
so
don't
why
like
are you
people, but I
inviting
do
everyone?
like
Yeah.
listening to my own voice. So
Yeah. So the more people,
but I think that was a huge issue, is that
Yeah.
not everyone needs to be at those meetings. And thinking of it now, meetings are expensive, right? They cost money. You are paying someone their hourly wage or whatever it is to sit down in a meeting and listen to you or whatever it is. They better sure be part of that group, or there needs to be a reason why they're there, or else that's just a big waste of money that you're spending on someone.
well, yeah, and you got to provide lunch. Like I was listening, I was doing
And
a little bit
lunch.
of research on this stuff too, and I don't, I was using ChatGPT to help me out with it, so I don't know if it's accurate or not, but I'm assuming it's somewhat accurate. I think it was Jeff Bezos that had said something about like, if you have a meeting and you have to buy more than 2 large pizzas, then you have too many people. And it's like, oh, that makes
like
sense.
that.
And that's for a company like Amazon, right? Which is massive.
Yeah.
So I mean, like,
Yeah.
I think his point on that is, and even when I was reading up stuff on like what Elon Musk does, right? And I mean, like, some of those guys are extreme examples of things, but they seem to have that common message of like focused small meetings are the best. Like, you don't want like your Chem 101 lecture hall, right, as like your meeting, because
Right.
it just doesn't work.
Yep. Yeah, I think so too. And I think another thing was like kind of what we alluded to as well, is like me doing all the talking. It's like I'm up there and I'm addressing the team. And I don't know if I like thought, like in the movies when, you have like a big company and you're like the CEO.
Oh, like Leonardo DiCaprio in Wolf of Wall Street.
Yeah,
when he's,
and
like,
you have
giving
this
everyone
big
that.
speech and everyone's going to be like, yeah, let's do it. It's like so motivational. And
Like,
it's
you
like,
just think you're gonna, it's
Yeah,
like you're gonna
that-
run through the halls just getting high fives.
yeah,
for
it'd be
everyone.
like, oh yeah, let's do it. It's like, that's probably what I'm thinking in my head. This is me with my like 4 people that are like on their phone. Like, I don't give a shit about what's going on.
Yeah. I mean,
And I'm like, this sucks.
we're trying to empower others, right? There's no way to grow and scale, and for us to get out of the management if we're not doing this, or we're not building these people up. And so, if we're trying to build, a common term is like the self-managing team. Like, I mean,
Yep.
I think there's degrees of scale to that and degrees of actual self-management. But I found, yes, putting the time in to this kind of thing freed me up to be more of a CEO role, where I was almost consulting the leads rather than being caught up putting out the fires with everyone. And that was kind of the aha moment. Did it happen overnight? No, but the consistency, and by sticking to it and trusting that it was going to lead to that, it did all work out. And to your point, you go through that phase where you're the one speaking the whole time, but eventually others through that empowerment start to rise up, and it's like they're running the meeting now. And that's when you sit back and you're drinking your coffee and you're like, this is what I was going for this whole time. That was the reinvestment in the business, paying people to be in these meetings for all these months and years,
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Another issue I'd always have too is that we'd have action items at the end, because we'd come in with an agenda and we'd have like a framework of like, okay, this is what we need to accomplish. And at the end, all the action items were always back on me. It's like, oh, I would do this. And they're like, oh, okay, I have to figure out this system, or I have to do that, and it would be like just 7 things that Alex has to do. And I'll report back to my team of like that I did them.
Well, what would happen is I don't think anyone
Yeah.
wanted to do them. So there would be like an awkward silence when I think sometimes we would say like, all right, what are the action items on this one? And then everyone would be quiet. And then I think finally sometimes Alex, you'd be like, I'll just do it. Right.
Well,
and I think sometimes you got into that because you just were like, I'll just take it on.
Yeah, maybe.
We've
But I think
we've all done that.
Yeah. And I think, like I kind of mentioned before too, it's like I don't think I ever really had the best people in the seats at the right time.
Sure.
Like my leads were like, I don't know. And I never spent time training them to be the best leads, kind of thing. So it's back on me. I take full responsibility. But yeah, I wish it was that point.
We've all done that, and it's super common, and I'm sure people listening are currently doing that. And what got me over that was like, it's kind of like the art of delegation, but also being like, okay, there's this situation, and I kind of look around the room. It's like, who's going to handle this? No one raises their hand, and it's like, okay, I'm picking somebody. Susie, It's your turn. Can you handle this? Great. And by what date So give them like it has to be completed by this date, and then report back to us on the result. If you need help along the way or please come to let's consult on it so I can set you up for success. But this is now on you.
And I think sometimes too, what I did is I put too much like emotion into it. I forgot what we were listening maybe to some other podcast, or maybe this was just you giving me advice again, Alex. But how if you're telling someone like, hey, I need you to do this, I need you to do it by that time. Sometimes I almost would create this situation where I felt like they didn't want to do it. So then like they would feel that probably in my voice, and I would be overly like friendly, and I'd almost like not negotiate against myself, but a little bit of like, oh, but like if it doesn't get done by then, that's okay, right? And I like added this emotion into it versus just saying, this is just a task, do the task. You don't have to like it or dislike it. It doesn't have emotion with it. It's just a thing. And I think a lot of us as humans just put emotion on every single like task or everything we do. And I think sometimes really good leaders, like you were good at it, Alex, or Chris, you're really good at it too. I think you guys can just like maybe, I don't know if compartmentalize is the right word, but like kind of like say, this is just a business thing. It doesn't have to do with me liking you or not. It doesn't have to do with anything about, I won't like you more, I won't like you less. Just like, this is what we have to do. And I was always bad at that.
This is part of the job, right? Like, we're not going to love everything about our job. We're going to enjoy certain aspects of it. And eventually, if you ascend to this point, you can get this off your plate and delegate it to somebody else. And it'll be new and exciting to maybe a assistant that works below you. Maybe they could now manage cases or something that really causes you a lot of brain damage, but for now, this is on you, until you get to that point where you can delegate it and you have bigger problems that you're solving for the practice.
We all know Eric wants more friends. If you're enjoying this episode, share the podcast and then tell them to DM Eric so he can hit his quota of 1 new friend per day. Now back to the episode.
Yeah.
Another one I have is that sometimes we'd mix like strategy and operations into the same meeting, and they really should be separate. I don't know if you guys had different like separate like strategy meetings that were maybe quarterly or yearly. Do you want to briefly touch on kind of some of your strategy meeting goals?
That's a great point. Yeah, like the monthly meetings are more like day-to-day operations and things like that. But big picture, you mean by strategy, like big picture, like, hey, what's our plan for 2026? That is separate. And we did do an annual meeting where it's like, this is the vision for 2026. We might review some of those items to see if we're on track for, our WIGs, our wildly important goals, or whatever it may be. But usually that is handled somewhere around December or January to set the vision for the next year.
And how do you make sure you're on track to hit those goals?
I think it depends. Some goals you can measure, like, oh, we want to get to 1,000 Google reviews or something. Like, that's measurable. What are the inputs that drive the output? Well, the inputs would be having some sort of system like Swell or patient review platform, but providing a great patient experience. Okay, what do we need to review our patient experience? Do we need to ask people for more reviews? So that would be the input driving, the output. And then we're tracking like how many reviews did we get this week and month into shorter timeframes if the goal is to get 1,000 for the year or whatever. I guess there are other types of goals, but you have to be really specific with what that looks like. Like if I said, hey, I want to have a great culture. Okay, what does that mean? What is that exactly? Let's define what is a great culture.
Yep.
So
how do you measure that for sure?
Like you might measure it by how much laughter you hear throughout the office during a given week. Turnover, you can measure it by turnover, right? So, we had a ton of turnover this year, the culture must suck. Or we had very minimal turnover, we must be doing something right as a culture. So I guess it depends on what the goal is.
So are you tracking those at your monthly meetings, or are you tracking those separate, like to make sure you're on track? Because you don't want to be like, oh yeah, I need 1,000 reviews for the year or whatever it is, and you've waited until November and you're like, oh crap, I only have 100. you want that fast feedback loop of, okay, what are we doing right? What are we doing wrong? So what's that cadence look like to make sure you're on track to hit those yearly goals?
I would say once a week. Okay, last week we had 10 reviews. We have reverse engineered this and realized we need 10 reviews a week to hit this goal. I don't know. I'm not doing the numbers in my head right now, but perfect. Or last week we had 15 Google reviews. Great. We're ahead this week. Let's keep that going. Or we were behind. Like, hey, should we run a giveaway for reviews, or one of these different ideas people have over the years to generate more Google reviews or whatever it might be. So we are talking about that weekly and monthly. So, at the end of the month, we had 45 Google reviews. I mean, that'd be great, but 30 reviews. Yep. That was a good month. We're on track. So awesome. You don't want to just show up in November and be like, are we on track or are we not? But different things will need to be visited at different frequencies.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, last one here that I would sometimes I'd screw up on it, but sometimes during meetings, there would be, someone would bring up something that happened, like with a patient or with insurance or something like that. And it would be so detrimental to them that they would want to change the entire system, the entire protocol that we've done because of this one exception to the case. And they would spend, they'd spend 15 minutes kind of having a bitch session on, okay, this isn't working and all this stuff. Joe never paid for that thing. So we should, not have our policy that you have to pay on, prep date or whatever it is. They would want to change everything based on one thing. And I always hated that.
Yeah. And I was always bad about agreeing with
Eric
that.
always gave in.
Yeah.
To you're right. The system
there'd be something
is flawed.
right. Everyone's got a patient who it's I'm not paying, right? Or I'm not doing this until here. And it's well, we always collect before, right? If there was one really angry patient, I remember our OM would always bring those up. And it's we have to change everything because 999 patients are okay with this and one isn't. What do we do? Oh, well then, dismiss that patient if they don't want to follow your protocol, and just keep the patients in who follow your system versus now, I don't think people realize, and I didn't at the time, how much time it takes to create a good system. And then if you derail it and want to do a new iteration of it, it takes a lot of time to do that. So it's not I think sometimes it's just simple to be oh, this patient was pissed. Oh, well, we can make this system better then. Let's add them in so they're okay with this new system versus just saying right. Okay, well then get rid of them. But I was always bad at that. I was always let's do it.
Those situations, I don't like. I've built some of the best systems off the worst team members, off the worst patients, right? But I don't want to reinvent the wheel because of a one-off. But sometimes the system or process needs to be audited, or hey, we did drop the ball here. Let's review, but let's see if there's any tweaks that need to be made to the system. Okay, there's no tweaks that need to be made. Great. Then do we need to retrain the team or remind the team? Because usually what it is just the team starts to veer off the path of the system and we miss the step. Yeah. So they just need the reminder. Okay, let's bring it back into the team's awareness. The system was not broken. It's a one-off, but now the team is now aware. We won't drop the ball on that one step in the collections process next time.
Well, yeah, totally, right? Like you said, maybe your example of when you said, hey, this Monday was really good. Let's go through and decode that whole thing. If you had a situation that was really bad, maybe you talk with your OM and you actually, before you say, I'm going to change the system, go through and decode that entire situation. Because like you said, it could have literally been that, I don't know, you had a temp one day and they didn't know to tell the patient that they had to pay beforehand. And so now the patient feels like that's the expectation, but now your OM's back or your person who takes payment, right? And they're like, hey, why didn't you pay? And the patient gets pissed off and is angry. Maybe it wasn't the system. It was just the people who were in there at that point. So maybe on those, we could have done a better job or people could do a better job of actually breaking down that situation and saying what actually caused it. Because you're right, Chris. I bet you most of the time it's not the system. It was either the person or someone didn't have clear expectations on what needed to be done. And then maybe the patient actually, maybe they weren't that bad and they were given wrong information.
Yeah, I'll give you a story that just happened recently. So I was in a lead meeting actually yesterday, and we had one of our front office people has a cousin who's a dental assistant looking for a job, and we don't really need a dental assistant, but like somehow this person got invited in and was doing like a job working interview day. Okay. And I kind of like asked like about her, and they're like, oh yeah, this is so-and-so's cousin. They're doing a working interview. I'm like, oh, cool. Sounds great. She's lovely. This person was lovely. And in the meeting, they were like, yeah, it doesn't look like we're going to hire her. I don't think we need her. And also she's looking for something closer to home, but she wants to get paid for the working interview day. And I'm like, well, then that's reasonable. Let's pay her. They're like, but they got to get set up on, I don't want to get into the technical but they have to get set up on this payroll system. You can't just write them a check, this whole thing. And I was like, well, was this person's fault, or just do we have to own this? And was this our fault? I think maybe it was our fault just because none of us quite communicated or knew what was going on. It just kind of happened, right? And so we have to own that. We did not follow our normal onboarding system because this person knew somebody in the practice. They did not go through the normal flow, and then the whole thing broke. And now we got this weird situation where this person's, got to get paid, and we got to, it's like, well, let's own that, guys. And it's not that the system was broken. It was that we dropped the ball. So it's just a weird recent example that just happened to us, to your point.
Yeah. Good example. Yeah. We've all been bitten in the ass with that one too.
So I think like to wrap it kind of all up, it's like, I do think, even though like I was like anti-meeting for a bit because I couldn't figure it out, and it was more like my own fault for not figuring it out. I think I agree with Chris, is like once you can get to that level where you've got enough employees, I think it's spending the time to empower someone else on your team to be able to handle a lot of that, because you still have other duties as a dentist, as the owner. In most big businesses, the owner of the business, even not big businesses, other like smaller businesses, the owner also isn't the one who's like leading all the meetings, making sure everyone's doing it. Like you hire someone to do that, right? And I think a lot of dentists just want to take it all on, or they feel like they have to. So I think it would be a different situation if Chris had a practice doing 4.5 million plus, and he was the one also running all the meetings, making sure everyone is accountable. He'd be burned out in like a fucking week, right? So I think that's what he did a good job of, is like knowing what to offload and actually stepping into the role of someone running like a multi-million-dollar business, right? And that's what you should be. So I
think if you're starting out, like for all those, listeners that are, starting a dental practice and doing it, take time to learn how to do a meeting. I think that's like, add that to the list of like how to, do insurance, and how to do how to teach
how to
your
how
stuff.
to balance like an account, right? Like you got to learn
all
that
the things
stuff,
that you need to learn that we all become very proficient in doing. Add how to run a meeting as one of the things, and like reach out to Chris, read books on it, listen to other podcasts on like how to structure meetings, because there is an art to it, and like don't do the things that I did. So.
Well, and I'll wrap it up with, we need to have the right people in these meetings. To your point earlier, you said, maybe you didn't have trust that they would get it done. Well, one thing I discovered was one of my love languages is like high follow through. So on the Kobe test, one of the 4 categories is follow through. So in my leads, I want somebody that's like a 7+ on follow through. That way those loops get closed, things get done, and progress is made. I know there's Kobe's not a personality test. I know people are like, oh, I'm going to have every team member take a personality test. Yes, there's a time and place for that. But this is more so reserved for people that are going to be elevated to a leadership role. I want to know how they get things done. And follow through is really a huge thing that will alleviate a lot of the burden on the owner.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right, so dangling the carrot for the next episode that we do. I think we should do like, and maybe we bring like Chris on, some other people too that we've known, and go through like KPI stuff, because I think it would be really interesting to see like what metrics we all kind of tracked, like which ones we think actually worked and which ones were like a waste of time. I think that could be kind of fun.
Sure.
That's what we'll do next time.
That could be it. I see everybody on Facebook right now trying to bait people into their stuff with talking about KPIs. I don't know. It's like kind of a funny topic. It's like we need to do an episode where it's like, well, how do you use these KPIs, or what does it even mean? And to your point, tracking the right ones that actually drive results. We need to know the numbers of the business, but as dentists, we're so analytical. We could get caught up in just, filling out our spreadsheets without having the right outputs to drive the result we want, or inputs, I should say, to drive the result. Kind of like we were talking about with Google reviews. So.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Nice.
Cool. All right. Well, thanks for coming on again. It's always a pleasure.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, guys. That was fun.